Welcome to episode 36 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show. My name is Jeremy Poock, and I lead Senior Attorney Match. In today's Ask Show, we'll address three questions plus our Pook's post. And just a heads up for today's Pook's post, it's going to be that MSOs have entered into the legal industry because ... Okay, let's go into our questions today. What's our first question? Our first question today is, what should I expect during the due diligence phase of selling a law firm? Great. So let's take that question and go a little bit backwards in terms of before even the due diligence with a potential purchaser happens. Let's think about the preparation for selling your law firm. There's really three important updates to make before selling a law firm. First and foremost is to know where your revenues come from. Sounds really simple, but in a lot of respects, a lot of law firms just start the year on January 1st and end the year on December 31st, just thinking, okay, my goal is to make such and such an amount of money, more than we made last year in our firm, and let's just bring in the business and periodically check on how we're doing with our goal. When it comes to preparing for the sale of your law firm, it's really important to look at the practice areas where your firm focuses on. Where are the matters being opened? How much money is being derived from particular practice areas? What level of profitability do you have in particular practice areas? Just give an example. We work with estate planners. Estate planners can certainly make very good money off of the planning side of their practices. Let clients live forever. And often, estate planners can make more money when they're administering the probates and the trusts for the clients who they wrote wills and trusts for. The message there is, let's make sure that we keep in touch with our clients, keep in touch with executors, personal representatives, trustees, to make sure that that work continues to come to the estate planning law firm, because we can then see from a trackability standpoint, okay, we've got such and such amount of revenues that's coming in from the planning side. Oh, and we see that we have a rising number of revenues coming from a rising number of matters, as unfortunately our clients are passing away, but at least those clients and their families are returning to our firm. So first and foremost is to know where the revenues are coming in from practice area wise, and what our profitability is from those revenues derived from those practice areas. The next update, also hugely important, is organizing your client list, right? Any buyer is going to be asking about, okay, how many clients do you have? What information do you have about your clients? Do you have their current addresses, email addresses, cell phone numbers? How often are you contacting your clients via, let's say, an e-newsletter or some other way to be contacting and touching your clients? So just having and knowing what your client list is, very important before you're even thinking of selling the law firm. And then third, in terms of that third update to make before selling your law firm, is to be updating your website and your LinkedIn profile. Any purchaser of a law firm is going to go first and foremost to the website. Second, after that, is going to look at the selling lawyer as well as all of the lawyers' LinkedIn profiles. So it's very important to update content, update pictures. Ideally, when there's enough time, and unless you're already doing it, is to increase the number of five-star Google reviews. Any purchaser wants to see that social proof today that your clients are leaving five-star Google reviews. They know, they like, and they trust you. So now let's look at that due diligence. Okay, when it comes to selling the law firm, there's really 6 meetings that we see when it comes to selling a law firm. The first is a meet and greet with a buyer. And let's just say a buyer has now expressed interest in purchasing your law firm. The second meeting is going to be the due diligence meeting. And that's really the heart of what the question here is okay, what type of due diligence? How do we prepare for due diligence when it comes to selling a law firm? So First and foremost is just to know your numbers, okay? To have your arms around the P&L, the profit and loss for the practice. What are the revenues? Where are the revenues coming in terms of practice areas? What are the expenses of the firm? What's our net profitability? The P&L is the home place for where a buyer is going to be looking at first and foremost. In the world of law firm sales, we are now seeing buyers get more and more sophisticated, and additional items that we're recommending now for sellers during due diligence to get your arms around is your quality of earnings, as well as understand and know your EBITDA. Won't spend any real time on those items today, except as any of us would do when they hear new terms, is to Google those terms, get familiar with those terms. Please ask your accountant about those terms, quality of earnings and EBITDA. We're going to be hearing more and more about law firm sales that will be based upon multiples of EBITDA, and knowing the quality of earnings that will support the EBITDA value of your law firm is going to become more and more important. Also, when it comes to due diligence, is going to be knowing is also knowing about your contracts that you have that are more than terminable at will. Looking, of course, at your lease, at your malpractice insurance policy, essentially like any contract for any type of term of years is also something that a buyer is going to want to be looking at. But by and large, buyers want to know, and from a preparation of due diligence standpoint, is how the revenues are coming into the firm, what the profitability is, and more, what is that EBITDA value of your law firm that will all come out during the due diligence phase of selling a law firm. Okay, so now for our next question. Our next question is, I have heard about private equity purchasing law firms. What does that mean? Okay, when it comes to the mid to late 2020s, we are certainly hearing more and more about private equity coming in, and I'll put quotes around purchasing law firms. So let's take a step back for a moment. There is only one state in the United States right now, which is Arizona, which has formally removed Rule 5.4 of the Professional Rules of Conduct with regard to non-lawyer owners of law firms. Arizona has established the ABS system, the alternative business structure, which allows for, let's say, private equity to establish a law firm in Arizona and can fee share with those states that permit fee sharing with matters that an ABS in Arizona could be generating in other states. So why all the buzz about private equity coming into the legal space? It's because private equity has now moved. Really, I think of it in a lot of respects as a herd, okay? That herd of outside money, private equity type money that initially got very interested in the ABS model. That herd is now moving at a fast pace, by the way, towards MSOs, managed service organizations. So rather than own the law firm, a managed service organization provides services, managed services to law firms in consideration, typically, as I'm seeing it, and many others in the industry are seeing this as well, in consideration for a monthly, quarterly, some type of administrative fee that is not tied to the profits of the law firm, as a means of making sure that MSO, managed service organization, which has private equity money coming into it, is not engaging in the unauthorized practice of law. So why is this happening? Why is private equity interested in law firms? And what we're showing here is that there has been a significant change when it comes to client development at law firms. So why bring that up? Because why is private equity getting involved in businesses generally? We look at what happened in the healthcare industry, in the accounting industry, in the dental industry, in HVAC, and other industries where private equity has come in, is because what they're looking for, that is the investors, are looking for repeat business, predictable business, and profitable business. There may be other factors, but certainly the factors that we continue to observe is repetition, predictability, profitability. And when it comes to the legal industry, well, let's start with the last one. It can be very profitable, right? We have very technical, talented professionals that can charge a premium on the hourly side, and on the contingency side can have contingent fees, typically in the range of a third, sometimes less, sometimes even higher. The factor that has made such a change on the repetition and predictable side is the fact that digital marketing arrived in 2020. It had been here, but when society pivoted digitally in 2020 and clients began searching more and more for law firms online, well, today's growing law firms are attracting clients digitally via Google, via AI, via multi-channel social media type marketing, of course, their websites, and via videos, podcasts, webinars. Clients are finding those lawyers that can then be producing that profitable work. So if you can be bringing in clients on a repeat basis based upon digital marketing, and that is then leading to a more predictable pathway for clients to come to law firms as compared to yesteryear's rainmaker law firms, where you needed one or more rainmakers at given law firms to attract the business. Well, now they're coming in more predictably, more repetitively via multi-channel digital marketing. That is absolutely getting the attention of private equity to be investing via MSOs that can put in that all-important digital marketing. In addition to other areas of investments, there's investments in legal tech, there's investments in other means of making law firms more efficient today. But certainly in terms of the energy source for all law firms as clients, when investments can be made into digital marketing to attract the attention of clients, to retain lawyers, that has caused that herd of private equity to move towards managed service organizations that can be providing those managed services to law firms in consideration for an administrative fee. And that's how they, of course, can make their money. Now let's look at, from the standpoint of law firm sales 2.0, in terms of what does it mean that private equity has come into the law firm sales space? Well, it means two things from the standpoints of really two sides of a coin that both have sellers on it. That is, if you are selling a firm to private equity is looking for, again, that predictable, repetitive, profitable business. So your sellers today are going to be firms that have real digital value, that have developed brand equity. When I say real digital value, that means that you've got data analytics that are showing that clients are repetitively and predictably coming into the business. So just to think about, because this is where a lot of the MSO activity and private equity activity is happening in single event personal injury loss. If we think about all those billboards that we all see on any highway in America today, and personal injury lawyers that we see on TV, hear them on radio, and see them online via social media and whatnot, that equates to digital value of clients retaining firms because of their multi-channel digital marketing. They're also developing brand equity. As a result, they can show that they have real EBITDA, they have real value to their law firms that show up in quality of earnings reports, and the consideration that private equity via that MSO is purchasing, not the law firm side. So we're not going to go into all that detail today about how they're not purchasing the actual law firm, but purchasing the non-law firm assets of the firm in consideration for a multiple, what we're seeing, of EBITDA. That's side of the coin one for the sales side. The second side of that coin is when private equity is going to be looking to resell. right? That is when the MSO is developing its own value over time by improving processes, by improving the data analytics in terms of even more predictably, more repetitively bringing in clients for the law side of the business to be doing the legal work. That multiple of what the MSO is going to be worth is attracting the attention of private equity, because the assumption is, and we're still at that assumption point, but the assumption is that the value of the MSO side, the managed services side of running the law firm, is going to increase for a second sale that is going to be at an even higher multiple of EBITDA, hence why private equity has entered into the legal industry. And then let's look at one aspect of who's a real winner when it comes to private equity purchasing law firms, and that's startup law firms. And a startup law firm does not need to be necessarily a firm that is starting from scratch. It's really a matter of how one can be running a law firm today to become attractive to private equity that wants to be purchasing the non-law firm side of what can be sold without running afoul of the unauthorized practice of law. So let's just focus on startup law firms and why there is opportunity for startup law firms today. And again, you can be a well-established firm, but act and conform to being a startup law firm. And that means that you have a real strategy for originating clients. What does that mean? That means not depending on one or more rainmaker attorneys. That means having a multi-channel digital marketing strategy and process for how you are attracting clients and how you are attributing new clients to your law firm. You are building a team of lawyers and non-lawyers who are pumping out the legal work. They're doing it efficiently. They are doing it profitably. We are developing and utilizing AI inside the firm, utilizing AI platform services, CRMs, all as part of the team of delivering legal services to your clients. As a result, as a startup law firm, you are watching growing sales and profits. You are purposely developing EBITDA for your firm that is growing and growing, because the multiple upon EBITDAs is going to continue to grow as more private equity gets involved and invested into the legal industry. And then those startup law firms, having gone through developing a strategy for originating clients, building teams to pump out the legal services, growing sales and profits, then you're going to be able to achieve a sale that is going to be for a multiple of that EBITDA that you have been tracking for years. So really, startup law firms are going to do very well between now and 2030 and beyond, as private equity continues to become more and more involved in purchasing law firms. Okay, so now for our next question. Our next question is, what is a law firm to law firm sale? The predominant sales of law firms continues to be law firm to law firm sales. And what we mean by law firm to law firm sales is that we regularly see what we'll call senior attorney led firms. These are firms that were founded and led by attorneys that have often practiced for more than 30 years, what we call senior attorneys. They have developed a client list and a referral source list, colloquially called the book of business. They have a book of business that they have been servicing often for decades. And who is the most popular buyer of that book of business is going to be another law firm. Another law firm is going to be purchasing a senior attorney-led firm in a law firm to law firm sale, because your growing law firm needs three resources to continue their growth. Those three resources are new clients, right? Law firms always need new clients, because clients present the energy source for all law firms. growing law firms need an experienced workforce. They need talented lawyers, and they need talented support staff. And more, in the mid 2020s, as we're heading towards 2030, growing law firms need digital content to attract the attention of today's clients who look online for lawyers and law firms to hire. In terms of the consideration that is paid in law firm to law firm sales, it is often structured as earnouts. That is, that a selling law firm is selling to a growing law firm in consideration for an earnout, a percentage of the collections attributable to the book of business. So why not sell for a fixed amount, or a fixed amount plus an earnout? And the reason why is because of the need for trust transfer. In law firm to law firm sales, the flux capacitor, to use that term from the Back to the Future movie, the flux capacitor for the sales to work, to be effective, to be profitable, is the rainmaker owner or owners of a selling law firm. They need to transfer the trust of their clients to lawyers at a purchasing growing firm. Lawyers and owners of the purchasing growing firm in a law firm to law firm sale, they're cautious. They have trepidation over, all right, are those clients from the book of business of the selling lawyer, are they really going to come over to our firm? If not, we don't want to overpay. But if they do, we're prepared to pay on an earn-out basis, a percentage of the collections of the revenues derived from that book of business. And just to put a percentage on it, in non-contingency fee type sales, it's typically somewhere between 20% to 30% of the collected revenues paid over the course of a negotiated period of time that can often be 5 years, sometimes less, sometimes more. In contingency fee sales, we're seeing higher percentages because of the norm in that industry for somewhere in the neighborhood of a 1/3 fee sharing. The importance of trust transfer, though, cannot be underscored. When a law firm to law firm sale happens, the seller should really have an expectation that the purchasing firm is going to need the selling rainmaker attorney or attorneys to transfer the trust of the clients to lawyers at the growing firm, and then the consideration is fee sharing over a negotiated period of time. Okay, so for today's Poock's post. Today's Poock's post is MSOs have arrived to the legal industry because ... So when it comes to MSOs entering into the legal industry, there's really 4.5 reasons why. So let's first make sure we define what an MSO is. An MSO is a managed services organization. MSOs have entered into the legal industry really over the last couple of decades, but primarily in the mid 2020s is where we are hearing much more about the entry of managed service organizations. They are managing all aspects of a law firm except for the provision of the legal services themselves, such that the MSO is not running afoul of unauthorized practice of law. So why have MSOs entered into the legal industry? And also, who are the winners and who are the losers? So when it comes to why MSOs have entered into the legal industry, there's 4.5 reasons. Okay. Reason number one is the clients. Okay. MSOs, which are backed by private equity. Okay. The private equity dollars that are funding the MSOs that are investing in law firms and then managing the non-legal services side of law firms. What are they looking for? They want repeat business. They want predictable business. And of course, they want to be making a profit off of the business that comes into the law firm. The first reason why MSOs have now entered the legal industry is because there is much greater predictability and repetitiveness of clients today, because clients today have changed their behaviors, whereas clients pre-Google, pre-2020 would be asking via word of mouth, who do you recommend as the best, let's say, divorce attorney, best trust and estates attorney, best personal injury law attorney. And who would get those recommendations would be typically rainmaker attorneys. Well, who does everybody and anybody ask today when we need anything and everything, right? We're going to Google, we're going to AI. Who's the best attorney near me? Who do you recommend ChatGPT for this fact situation? And by investing in multi-channel digital marketing, which private equity dollars can do via MSOs, they can be putting out significant digital marketing dollars to attract the attention so we can add to greater predictability and greater repetitiveness of clients coming to law firms. Again, that reason number one is because client behavior has changed. Now let's look at reason number two. So reason number two is that, all right, if client behavior changed, then law firm marketing behavior has also changed. And we have seen an absolute revolution when it comes to the digital marketing for lawyers and law firms in an unbelievably short amount of time. Essentially, and let COVID have never happened. But when we were home for so many months, and we all just ordered everything and anything on Amazon and Grubhub and started, working out, at home by watching, workout type videos. We utilize, our devices today, as Gary Vaynerchuk will say, our smartphones are essentially the remote controls of our lives. Well, that has been realized by growing law firms that now recognize that to develop business in the mid-2020s, heading towards 2030, predictably into the 2030s, is that we develop business via Google, via AI, social media, websites, webinars, YouTube videos, podcasts, all so that those clients that are searching for law firms can get to know, like, and trust lawyers in advance of making a call. Whereas yesteryear, clients would rely on that word of mouth recommendation. Well, today, if they're asking ChatGPT for the best attorney for their situation, and a law firm is coming up because they have invested the dollars together with the talented lawyers at their law firms that produce the content to attract the attention of clients, well, those MSOs have now come into the legal industry because they recognize that, all right, if we invest in multi-channel digital marketing, we can more repetitively and predictably bring in clients that we can provide services for profitably. Now let's look at the third reason. The third reason why MSOs have entered into the legal industry is because of the changing nature of lawyers. Okay, whereas lawyers of yesteryear, and what I mean by yesteryear is essentially from the baby boomer generation. At that point, generations going forward, X, millennials, we're getting into alpha. Okay, there is if there is such a word as observantly, what we continuously observe among younger attorneys is that they do not want to open their own law firms. That today's younger attorneys want a reliable, predictable, and safe job. As we all know, work-life balance is a huge part of today's lexicon. It's in today's lifestyle, is that people want to have a work-life balance. What that translates into in the legal industry is lawyers that want a reliable, predictable, and safe job. So why do MSOs get attracted to law firms for younger lawyers that want a reliable, predictable, and safe job? It's because if you can provide, from a services standpoint, an environment where the lawyers do not need to develop their own book of business, right? When I went to law school, it was told to us that, all right, you were going to meet with clients immediately, but at some point you got to build a book of business, because that's your insurance for the rest of your career, is by having a book of business. Well, today's younger lawyers, because they want a reliable, predictable, and safe job, if the law firm can take care of and generate the clients, then what we need with those talented lawyers is essentially to provide them with an environment where they can practice for years to come. They don't need to develop the business. They just need to do the work. And that adds to that repetitive and predictable nature of what the MSOs and private equity is looking for, because you're not going to be as much turnover in law firms, because the lawyers today do not have similar books of business, similar portables that could go to competitive firms. It's still going to happen, of course, but we're absolutely seeing that the lawyers today, younger lawyers today, because they're not developing their own books of business, is actually attractive to MSOs, because they can continue, that is, the MSOs can continue to provide an environment for reliable, predictable, and safe job. Now let's add the half, right? We said there's 4.5 reasons. So it's really at 3 that we're going to go to the half when it comes. If we just go back to that last slide for a moment, when it comes to the key employee lawyers, the additional half is the addition of legal tech, right? That is, that your lawyers today, we're all getting used to AI, but AI is absolutely going to provide younger lawyers, or really tomorrow's legal workforce, with tools to practice more efficiently. And that is something that MSOs are bringing to the marketplace as well. That is, by being able to invest in the top legal tech tools for the lawyers that want a reliable, predictable, and safe job, to offer those AI tools in their workplace, so you can do the work and you can actually get the work done in essentially an 8 to 6 type of environment, maybe even less hours, maybe sometimes more, but you don't need to do business development anymore. You don't need to do as much research as you needed to do in yesteryear, because of legal tech. Hence that third reason, key employee lawyers, providing them with reliable, predictable, and safe jobs, is attractive to MSOs. And now let's look at the fourth reason. The fourth reason why MSOs have come into the legal industry is because of the potential profits on sales of the MSO at some point. So there's two types of sales that happen with the involvement of MSOs. First is the purchase of law firms. So really, as a reminder, because MSOs are not law firms, and because they have to be very cognizant of unauthorized practice of law, the purchase is for all aspects of the firm outside of the actual provision of law. We've seen that in medical. We've seen it in dental to a certain extent, to whichever states where accountants, you can't own the accounting firm, but particularly dental and medical provide examples for where the lawyers can run a law firm, the MSO runs the non-law firm side of providing of being the law firm outside providing the legal services. By the way, we're all getting used to this. Just to point out my sort of fumbling here, on what the MSO is providing. But let's get back to the profitability. So MSO comes in with the funding from private equity, and can come in and purchase the non-lawyer side of law firms. Then, when the MSO is building up that profitability of the firm, that is by bringing in clients on a predictable basis, repeat clients, having a stable, steady, and knowledgeable, experienced workforce that consists of lawyers and non-lawyers. As the profitability of the MSO increases, that fourth reason why MSOs are entering into the legal industry is they absolutely predict that the multiples for the value of the MSO, that managed service organization that's providing managed services to one, and often it's going to be multiple law firms that MSOs will provide their managed services to, that their profitability, their EBITDA value is going to increase. The multiple for the sale of their EBITDA value is going to increase, and we're going to see sales of MSOs within the next couple of years, which is also attracting MSOs into the legal industry at this time. So now let's look at the winners and the losers when it comes to MSOs entering into the legal industry. A particular winner is who we call startup law firms. These are firms that are very focused on systems, processes, profitability, and EBITDA. That is, they have a strategy for how they are developing clients outside of a need for a traditional rainmaker attorney. That is, they are developing clients via multi-channel digital marketing. They have systems and processes in place that assist them to provide top legal services, of course, but also with an eye towards how profitable they are. They have their eye, that is, startup law firms have an eye on their EBITDA. And for anybody that's not familiar with EBITDA, please Google it. You can become an expert in it, just like you become experts in all types of aspects of issues that your clients present. Startup law firms are building the values of their EBITDA, and once they have that EBITDA value at a certain level, then they can go to the MSOs, private equity, and say, "Hey, here we are. We are a law firm that specializes in such and such an area. Our EBITDA is this much. The multiple for selling our law firm can be that much, and will be purchased as a result because private equity and MSOs have entered into the legal industry." Let's look at the second winner. The second winner with the managed service organizations coming into the legal industry are more traditional law firms that have strong books of business. That is, they have clients and referral sources, because any law firm always needs clients and referral sources, because clients are the energy source for any law firm. Additionally, those more traditional law firms, they have great goodwill. They have subject matter knowledge in several practice areas for why clients are regularly retaining those firms, and they're developing more and more digital value. And what I mean by digital value is that there is less and less dependence upon one or more rainmaker attorneys. Even though in yesteryear, law firms needed rainmaker attorneys to make it rain, bring in the business. When it comes to private equity funded MSOs, they want that predictability, repetitive clients, not dependent upon rainmaker attorneys. So the higher the digital value, the more a traditional law firm will be a winner in this new MSO world, because they'll be able to show that, okay, clients come in from these diverse areas for how we have our growing book of business that any law firm needs in terms of sales, by being able to show we have a book of business filled with clients and referral sources, ideally where those clients are being generated more digitally as compared to yesteryear's dependence on rainmaker attorneys. Now let's look at, unfortunately, the losers. So the losers at least when it comes to selling to private equity that is funding managed service organizations, are law firms who are dependent upon digital rainmakers, and those digital rainmakers are not generating as much business as they did in yesteryear. So if your clients are not being replenished as much as yesteryear, your referral sources are retiring, you're not investing in digital marketing for your law firm, you're just unfortunately not going to be ripe for sale to a MSO. And there's so much publicity in today's marketplace about MSOs, but even if your client list and referral source list is diminishing, that does not mean that you can't sell your law firm. It just means that a more traditional law firm to law firm opportunity is what is going to be the better choice for those traditional law firms whose books of business may be actually decreasing at this time versus increasing, and have not invested in multi-channel digital marketing. So just to wrap up, in terms of that MSOs have arrived to the legal for 1.5 reasons. Clients have changed how they search for lawyers. They search for lawyers online today, which increases the ability for law firms to more predictably and repetitively attract clients to their firms. That leads to that second reason why MSOs have entered into the legal industry, is because law firms have adjusted. Many more need to, when it comes to attracting clients to their firms. Clients are looking digitally, and those firms that are investing in multi-channel digital marketing are attracting the attention and generating clients digitally. The third reason is because there is a stable of talented lawyers that want a reliable, predictable, and safe job. That's the third reason. Add the half, and that those those same lawyers, key employee lawyers who could do the work, the MSOs can bring in legal tech led primarily by AI to allow those lawyers to practice more efficiently than yesteryear. And they can really have a life today and practice in an 8 to 6 type of environment. Some of the senior attorneys on this will snicker at what I just said. Younger attorneys, though, who really want a work-life balance, well, MSOs can provide that by providing and maintaining that reliable, predictable, and safe job with legal tech tools to help them become better, more efficient lawyers. And then when it comes to 4.5, that fourth reason, okay, we added the half on the three, is because of the profitability that law firms offer to private equity and to MSOs, because when they become, that is when the law firms that they are operating, when the profitability rises, the MSOs today are looking at higher multiples of sales when they're going to be able to show that the managed service organization's profitability and its EBITDA continues to increase for the next buyer who's going to pay at a much higher multiple than they are purchasing in today's marketplace. And that is episode 36 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show.